I'm here in Lan Kwai Fong, which is in Hong Kong, and this is basically Mecca for Asian fetishists. Big ass crowd up here. Craziness, yes? It's been a very interesting boot camp. It's been kind of an interesting mix of different styles that we had to deal with, because when dealing with the more Eastern demographic, it tends to be more of a shy demographic you're dealing with. But we're also out here doing street game, which requires usually a harder open. So it's been a very particular style that we've had to adopt in order to be successful. And it got me to thinking a lot about different personalities in game, how different people act and react different ways around girls, and specifically how different styles interact, how certain people will think one club is easier or harder than another, whereas another person might have completely the opposite view. And the question is, which one is easier, which is harder, or maybe, perhaps, it's just a difference in style, which is the contention, or the premise that I'm going to take in this particular video. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about styles in game. And first I want to recount a couple stories from my boot camp this weekend. It's pretty interesting because I had two different students. One was tall, blonde, Scandinavian guy, and the other was actually a pretty good looking Chinese guy, but he was from mainland China, and so he had some issues about, he thought he was very different than a Hong Kong person. He thought he'd be judged sort of negatively based on cultural stereotype. And I asked around, and it turns out that's true to a certain degree. But it's very interesting because coming over here, I thought perhaps, I might have a problem with language barrier because I speak only English, I don't speak Mandarin or Cantonese. But this guy spoke fluent Mandarin, pretty passable Cantonese, and then okay-ish English, but as good as anybody else really here, if not better, for the most part. But he had it in his head that he was going to have a language barrier, whereas myself and the Scandinavian guy, who was actually pretty sexually experienced as well, we sort of just dealt with it, and we're like, look, we don't speak the language, but who the fuck cares, we'll communicate in other ways. And so it's pretty interesting how it wasn't like there was a right or wrong thing in game. It was more that if you believe in yourself, if you have the style right, it will work out well for you, and if you don't, it won't work out quite so well. The other big stylistic thing that was interesting to me is the guys that are here, or the guys that I met here, one of my students, and then some of the other guys that I know through RSD that are here, very, very into Asian girls. And they have a particular type of game that they develop for that, which is more of a softer game. It's similar, if you guys ever check out my video, Game Like a Sex Addict, we talk about sweetie game, right? It's very similar to that, where it's a lot of being very, very nice, for a couple different reasons. Number one, they tend to be shy and introverted anyway, so you don't need as much value, you tend to need more comfort and less value. So having, in fact, too much value actually makes it harder, right? I noticed when I came here, I had to start saying things like excuse me and sorry a lot more in my game. For example, I've learned for many, many years not to say excuse me, sorry on the open, but here I'm like, hi, excuse me, sorry, and it works much better than I'm like, hey, you. If I say, hey, you, that kind of thing, they just go, oh, no, wait, what? And they get very scared. Whereas in the United States, I would just do hey, you, and I wouldn't do excuse me, sorry, because I want that value bump. So it's a bit of a cultural difference. So that's one thing, right? Difference between more a shy person versus more of an aggressive person. However, then you look at the difference between, say, street game and club game. In club game, people are more committed to location, or even to a greater extent than that would be people sitting at a table or sitting at a booth in a nightclub or in a bar, right? They're not going anywhere. They're staying at least roughly in the vicinity. So there, you can get away with more sort of horsing around chit-chat that's not really directed anywhere and doesn't really come from a premise. Whereas in doing street game, you need to have some sort of premise of the conversation, otherwise they'll be like, what's going on, and just leave. So one kind of premise can be to go direct, just like, hey, I liked you, etc. And that can be effective, but it is a little hit or miss, right? You're either gonna get a harsh yes, a harsh no, or maybe sometimes a shit test. So it might not be the best style. But it's definitely workable and it has premise. Another way to go would be to premise it in a certain way. I know for a very difficult sort of street set, a lot of times what I would do would be to use some kind of, hey, I need your opinion on something, or hey, I need to ask you a question, and use that to get them to stop. And then only once they're stopped would I then begin to go more direct, right? So you're stopped, oh, actually, you know what, you're quite cute. Maybe I should talk to you, who are you, that sort of thing. So I get that little window, that little opportunity from being indirect, and then I can take the opportunity to be more direct later. So again, it's a difference in style. Another difference in style, dance floor game versus quiet area game. I particularly prefer quiet area game, and most guys that I know that have learned formal game prefer a quieter area. But I would be willing to bet probably some amount of money that clubs that have a dance floor and people are getting rowdy on the dance floor, probably more people hook up than in clubs where it's an outdoor area. I'm not entirely sure that, I haven't done statistical research, but I would guess that because most guys don't have verbal game, and for guys that don't, the dance floor is a better place. Or for guys who are able to learn that dance game. Hey, what's up, man? You want to be in the video?
Yeah, sure, why not? Crazy thing going on.
Absolutely, man.
Do you know what connects all these people over there?
What's that?
Music.
Oh my God.
Music.
All right, so that's interesting. Okay, so different styles. Again, dance floor, more likely to hook up probably for the average guy, but for a guy who knows game and knows verbal game, probably more likely to hook up off the dance floor. But if you knew both, maybe again, on the dance floor. So the question is, which is the harder club? I would say it doesn't matter. It doesn't make a difference. Last example, I'll give you two more examples. One, I used to, for a really long time, have a lot of trouble with Asian girls for that exact same reason. If I had a very value-centric game, and I didn't know how to calm it down and be more chill. But now that I've been to Asia a few times, I'm a little bit better at it. I'm still better, though, in a more rowdy country like in Australia, United States. So that's a particular thing. Last example, though, is Las Vegas. For a really long time, even when I knew game, I had a really hard time gaming in Vegas. So I had a very relationshipy, boyfriendy type game where I like get phone numbers, do day twos, that sort of thing. And Vegas is all about the pull. Phone numbers mean nothing. So I was very, very frustrated there. Whereas a lot of guys that had no game, were just aggressive, would do really well there. So it's just, again, a difference in style. But now that I've calibrated to Vegas, I do really extremely well there. And I actually get impatient in other cities because I've gotten used to it, right? So is it a question of I had better game before, I have better game now, or whatever? No, I've learned to calibrate my game to the different environments. So what's the upshot of this? This is all interesting information, but how should you take this? How should you use this information? Well, here's what I'll say. Number one, recognize your strengths. Think about what it is you're good at and play to that. If you're good at verbal game and terrible on the dance floor, do verbal game, stay off the dance floor to a certain extent. Now, you can go on the dance floor to learn, you can go on there for fun, you can go on it as a supplement, but if you just want results, stick to what you're good at, okay? But at the same time, if you want to be good at everything, try and actually round out your game. Try and actually think about it and figure it out, okay? Try and get it all together. Hello.
Hey.
How are you?
Are you doing a video?
I am. You're very cute. Who are you? Hello.
Hi.
Hi. Hey man, what's up? Hey, what's up, man?
How do you like LKF?
I love it.
You love it? What
I love
do you love about it?
I love you.
Thank
I'm
you.
my friends. Have you met my friends? You're very much better at English and more outgoing than most South Koreans I meet.
Seriously?
Yeah.
All the South Koreans, well not all.
Not all.
But a lot of South Koreans are really fun and they're very outgoing.
Yes.
So maybe
Okay.
you've met their own people.
Apparently, I met a lot of really shy ones actually.
Alright.
Be here for a minute?
I guess so.
Okay, I'm gonna finish up my video and then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna have a drink with you, okay?
Alright.
How do you feel about that?
I know, I have to ask my friends.
Okay, I'll be back in like 4 minutes.
Okay.
So that's a little bit about different styles, different games. That's different than the game I was just talking about because obviously more outgoing. So, you know, different sorts of things. But yeah, so for example, Vegas I had a hard time for a while, but then I got the style down, I figured it out, and now I can absolutely crush it there. So the takeaway from this is, again, do what you're good at, but round out the areas. Also though, think about what you really want in game. Game is personal. Some guys want Asian girls, some guys want tall Russian models, some guys want feisty girls, some guys want shy girls, and think about what type of girl you want, and then tailor your style to that. Don't try and cater to everyone. Don't try and be loved by everybody, it's never gonna work. Nobody is friends with everybody, nobody loves everybody. Be a specialist, not a generalist, but be the best at what you do, okay? So it's better to be the absolute best on a dance floor than to be mediocre at both verbal and dance floor. Same thing, better to be the best at verbals than to be mediocre at verbals and dance floors, right? So focus on an area, specialize, be amazing at it, round out to the best you can, but go after what you want, okay? If you want shy girls, learn a more comfort style game. If you want outgoing badass, like fucking like in your face girls, learn a more aggressive game and understand that you're gonna lose some of those shy girls along the way, okay? It is what it is, tailor to what you want, know your own style, figure out your strengths and weaknesses, and have a game that is suited to your personality and the way you wanna be. Oh my God, no, he's like scared. Whereas you have to be like, hi, sorry, excuse me, hi. and then they're like,
You
oh,
know what? I think that would be completely different if you spoke fluent Cantonese.
probably.
That's the biggest difference. Like, imagine me coming up to you talking, hey, you in Korean. You'd be freaked out because you don't speak the language.
Actually, I'd be like, who is this exotic girl speaking some strange language to me? Mwah. If I had more time to hang out with you, ooh, you're in good shape too. All right, darling, I must go. I would totally love to spend the entire evening with you, but I absolutely cannot.
All right.
Be good.
All right.
All right, so that's Hong Kong for you. Unfortunately, I have a flight, so I have to leave my cute Korean girl. But it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. I hope you've enjoyed it as well, and I will catch you next time. Take care.